Hello and welcome. My name is Vishnu Venugopal. I am here on a really momentous occasion, honestly. This is the inaugural episode, the inaugural like dry run of Fruit Check Conversations on Purpose with
Turn
Darvell
up.
Jones. We're here. Really quick, I'm going to run through what the two of us have kind of conceptualized for this podcast. Then we're going to get into introducing the man, the myth, the legend, Sain Levrad, Darvell Jones, however you might know him. All right. So first off, both of us have been working together since we met in graduate school at Northwestern, the 2018-2019 academic year.
Yep.
We were staying together in Englehart, which is the graduate dorm, and found that we seem to have a lot in common. Just we're in different parts of like the kinds of industries that we were looking to get into. So for me, that was watching somebody come in and tell me, look, I got this album that I'm trying to put together. I got these singles that I'm trying to roll out. Here's the plan. Here's the idea. This is where I'm going. And then I got to see him book the studio sessions and put the time in, adjust as kind of timelines were shifting and everything. But everything kind of came back to, okay, where is the intersection of intention, of thought, and of purpose? How do these things align? And then what happens when they're all moving together in one direction? Now, through a series of different kinds of conversations with all the remarkable individuals that we have in our lives and beyond, we're hoping to highlight how acting thoughtfully and intentionally can help a person align with their purpose and ultimately have the greatest positive impact that they possibly can have on this world. So we ask the question of, if all of us are operating in one way or another, how do intentionality and thoughtfulness change those actions? How does being conscious in your thoughts and your actions alter your approach and your outcomes? If I maximize my moments, my life will change at a rate and in a capacity that I can't fathom, because I'm ensuring that I'm putting in the time and the energy to ensure that the seeds that I plant bear fruit, small or large. That brought us to a story that Darvell had around a mentor that he had that I'll let him get into. Let's just this question of like, okay, Fruit Check. And we thought that might be the name. So without further ado, let me introduce to you more formally the other voice that's on the line here. Darvell, how you doing, man? How you feeling? What's your Fruit Check?
What's up, V2, man? Doing pretty good. Feeling good. Fruit check today. Feeling sweet. Very enthused. I feel like I'm getting all the nutrition I need in the form of, confidence, reassurance, friendship, love, support, all of the above. So it's been dope, man. I'm just loving it.
I'm going to ask one other question about this fruit thing right now. What kind of fruit would you be right now? Or what kind of fruit do you feel like life is serving you right now?
I think I would like to say it's like a lemon at this time, because as much as I dislike stuff that's too tart, there's sometimes that I love the sour moments. And I think that even in this experience that I'm enduring now with my new business ownership with Levraddigans Studio, shout out to Levraddigans, and all these other things. Yes, and everything else that I'm doing in my life and experiencing through this pandemic era, it always feels like it's a tad bit bittersweet, because just as much as great things are happening in my life, it seems like not so great things happen in other folks' lives that I care about. And so it keeps me in this tug of war of sorts of like, can you stay happy? Can you stay feeling like, hey, motivated, I'm the man, and this is moving forward if you're seeing other people somewhat decay as you're moving forward and growing. So I think it's kind of a lemon experience, but I love lemon too.
Finding ways to make lemonade, right? Finding ways to make lemonade.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I'm doing, trying to make lemonade out of lemons.
All right. Okay. So then let's just get right into it, man. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do what you do?
Okay. So my name is Darvell Jones, as we already said a few times, also known as Sain Levrad, which is my moniker. The word Sain means to bless, and Levrad is my name backwards minus a L. So it's very much an expression of my very peculiar and witty thought process and how I approach life in general. I think music has the power to bless folks in ways that they couldn't imagine. And so for me, it's like I'm blessing your ears as I create, as I do what I do. And even in this podcast setting, we're blessing ears again, hopefully, with what we drop with gems and knowledge, and especially with our future guests as we come through. For for a while now, I think when I started on my artistic journey, my creative journey, it was strictly from a singing perspective. It was like, I wrote this in a paper once to a teacher in undergrad. I said, when I was younger, my voice became my first friend. And it was the truth, because there's a innocence and a openness that comes from talking to yourself and having this kind of moment where it's like, you don't have to worry about how silly you sound or how crazy you sound when you're talking to yourself, because it's like, you don't judge you to that extent, hopefully. And so when I was younger and I was finding my voice, for one, I had a high-pitched voice, so I'm singing like the Sister Act's Boy all the time, Hope and Happy Day guy or whatever, in that stratospheres. And it was cool, and I liked being that. I was very much a very high tenor voice, as younger as most guys are when they're younger. And so when I found myself discovering that I could sing, I think it started probably around age 3. And then when I got to the point where I went to kindergarten at Academy of St. Benedict the African, shout out to Stewart campus, we were there, and a teacher of mine who is still in my life to this day, an amazing teacher by the name of Miss Drake, found my voice. She heard what I had come to befriend in the form of singing, and having as my security thing whenever I'm feeling down, feeling uneasy, feeling excited. That's how I expressed my emotions. And she discovered my voice and told me like, hey, you can sing it. And next thing you know, she's put me in the forefront every 5 seconds to sing for something at the school. In our kindergarten classroom is like performing at every school event, whether it's like the lectures or the special like MLK celebrations. Yesterday was anything that was happening. Our kindergarten class is there. And so the upperclassmen looking at us like, 8th graders looking at us like, why are these little kids singing every 5 seconds? Yeah. But she was about it. And it's like, we still got our schoolwork done, did our classes, took our naps, but when it was music time, she whipped out the song, she whipped out the piano, and she started giving us our stuff. And so that's where it kind of started for me. And as it blossomed out of singing, I came to join a group called the Soul Children of Chicago, who's the director and founder of it. Dr. Walt Whitman is also the person that inspired this Fruit Check show, given the fact that he shared this nugget with me years ago. And we'll get into that a little later. And so I started doing that, started touring and performing more seriously internationally and stuff like that. And had a really amazing experience, life-altering momentum in the creative spaces and in the entertainment industry that set me up for a cool journey. And at the point where I was probably 2 years into SCC, I started songwriting. Before I was just writing poems because I liked writing poetry. And then it became a thing where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm not just writing poetry. Maybe I'm actually writing songs without knowing, because everything I would write, it was like everything was in a rhythm. And I've always been melodic. I feel like my whole life I've been humming. And even it's like I subconsciously hum too, where people be like, "Are you singing?" I'm like, "No," and they're like, "No, you were humming," or something like that, because I just live my life in a melodic motion, I guess. And so
music going through you all the time, right?
Absolutely, yeah, it's just always flowing. And so I started songwriting at 12 and a half. And then next thing you know, that takes me all the way to now. And then I went to undergrad. And at that point, I had done production and songwriting internships and things, but I still hadn't really built my foundation as a producer to where I felt like, okay, yes, I'm making songs, but I can like create the musical accompaniment that goes along with it. I wasn't at that point. And so part of my exploration of the undergrad experience was like, okay, maybe that's a leg that I need to occupy and expand. And so next thing I know, I'm going to St. Mary's University, Minnesota, shout out to Smooth. And I was initially a chemistry major. And I was cooking up and I was making experiments and stuff, but it ended up not being in the lab. It ended up being in the sound stages and then the studio recording spaces and other stuff, and the digital audio workstation softwares and things. And so that's where that producer thing unlocked in. The end of my freshman year into sophomore year the beginning of sophomore year of undergrad is where Sain Levrad idea came. And so as you can see, it was like years and years of like a build up. And for me, being someone insecure when I was younger, especially about my voice, even though people would compliment me, I always was like, why is this my voice? Like, I wish it was a little more like this or a little more like that, because when I first started singing, I was a mimic, so I mimicked other things that I heard. And so back then I didn't understand it. It was hard to find what is my true sound. Like, who does Sain Levrad, who does Darvell Jones sound like regardless if he's singing somebody else's song. And so through that journey, Sain Levrad was birthed in sophomore year. And since then, it's just been a a whirlwind of just crazy experiences and so much growth. And I went from just being a singer, really, I just went from being somebody who expresses themselves using their voice to someone who's like a multi-hyphenate in a lot of different areas and creating in so many different legs, like this podcast show, which is a dream come true thanks to this dude, because we've been talking about stuff like this for the longest, but to be able to start it now feels pretty amazing. Hopefully that answers the question.
Nah, totally, man. I was gonna say, to some extent, it sounds like there's some divine guidance in that, right? Like there's different things that came to you at different times.
Absolutely.
Kind of nudge you along. But to kind of tie back to that thoughtfulness and intention piece, right? The intentionality piece. I think you finding your voice as like your first friend is a really, really beautiful sentiment. And then you were talking about just self-compassion, the idea of like having like that be your friend and not someone who you're like fighting with. That's something that I think a lot of creative folks tend to struggle with, at least in that like there's a critical voice inside of them as well. So how, I mean, just really quickly, I guess, how do you balance that self-compassion piece and then that self-critique piece or that criticism that's inside of you too?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I got to a point where I realized that the best way to set myself up for success was to give myself the benefit of the doubt. And so in more ways than one, I stopped being so nitpicky with where I saw improvements could be made, like noticing, I was off pitch there, I was inaccurate there, I missed that dance step, I was too slow here, I didn't put the beat right, I didn't do that mix right, I didn't do this master, all these other things. Like comes to a point where I realized I'm in a growth process. Like we say with the fruit check, a seed grows and it takes time, and a lot of times the growth happens beneath the surface and then it sprouts on the outside where everybody can see. And so even in my life, I felt like there were changes and shifts occurring in me on a spiritual level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a natural level, even, of course, with aging, of course. And like with all of that, I came to realize that if I'm going to become my best self and be all that I ever could have been, I had to stop seeing it as this far-fetched otherworldly thing, like I'm Earth and this is Pluto. Like, no, it's here with me. I am this. I embody this. It's in my space and I have room to occupy it. I just have to take myself from a mindset and a mentality of deficit to a mindset and mentality of plenty. And so when I shifted that to like, okay, I might not be able to do this well right now, but I can refine that. Like if I'm hitting these notes that I can't hit and I feel like I need to work on it, I can vocally train myself to get better.
Get there,
but
exactly.
Right. But it's like, but if it's something where it's like, yeah, I want to do a podcast show, but when do I start? How do I do it? Where does it happen? I got to a point where I realized, I'm doing things on purpose for my purpose, and God's doing things on purpose for my purpose. So in my mentality and thought process, like my journey is non-negotiable as long as I'm willing to embrace it. So it's like, if I'm embracing this, it's not a negotiable thing. Like I'm moving forward. Seeds are being planted, harvests are being manifested, and things are moving forward. I just have to make sure that I stay on par. Because if I'm not moving, I think I was saying this to one of my homies, Bari, who helping us with the show right now. Shout out to Bari. When I was talking to him, I was just saying like, yeah, man, I came to realize that if I want to see my dreams manifest, if I want to see my goals and aspirations come to fruition, I have to move. If I don't move, nothing happens. And it doesn't matter if I'm moving an inch today or miles in one step. Motion moves things. And I think another thing I said was like, people are just living, and it's like we're breathing, right? So we have our breath, we have our being, we're able to have the ability to be alive. So yes, we're alive, we're living, but I think life is the action side of living. Like if you're not moving in an actionable way, if there's not intention, if there's not passion, if there's not effort and energy being put forth, you're just living. And it's wonderful to live. It's great to breathe. It's wonderful to do these things.
Sometimes you need a rest. Yeah.
Right. But in my opinion, I feel that you don't experience life until you like I said, embrace it. I don't know why embrace keeps popping in my head,
you.
but that's the thing. Yeah.
I'm hearing there's like a deep trust and kind of a knowing in yourself that's like, look, I'm the one that's gonna make this stuff come to me, and I'm gonna do that through my actions. I'm gonna attract the people, things, places, whatever it is that are going to help me on my journey. I just have to trust that, like, the divine, like God has that plan, and I'm moving the best that I can to kind of continue on my path to get to where I'm trying to get to. I'm not trying to get too deep on the first episode. We can talk about how time's a construct and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
But we could do that a little later, maybe. So okay, cool. Can we talk a little bit about where home is for you, and what kind of role does the concept of home play in what you do and how you do it?
Yes. So home for me is Chicago, Southside, Inglewood community. Has an interesting reputation in the eyes of people all over the world, but I see it as home. I see it as where I was born and raised, where my grandmother's, who was a single mother with 3 children, and back in the 40s, 50s, bought her own house and got this going and secured it for her household. And so in my head, it's a legacy in that sense. And so home is the Jackson family, which ironically, you think Jackson, you think Michael Jackson, but our family, our core family name and stuff of the matriarch and stuff was the Jacksons. And so with that being said, like, Chicago has always been home. It hasn't always felt like home, because although I was here and I was present and I was doing a lot in Chicago, at times I felt like the oddball or the outlier in my community, because being surrounded by folks that are coming from different walks of life, some people that are engaging in things that aren't as fruitful and nice for them, such as drugs and gangs and other things like that, and succumbing to these impoverished areas and hardships like that, I felt a little out of place. And so there were often times where, as I'm traveling, as I'm performing, as I'm doing all these other things, wearing these interesting outfits I used to get laughed at in, when I was touring with Celtics, it became a thing where, as much as I connected to it, as much as I honored it and was feeling like, hey, I'm an ambassador from Inglewood now, like I'm going and doing all these things, and I'm able to take a little piece of home with me everywhere I go, because it's me. So it's like I'm going there talking about it with pride, with fire and excitement, and then you'll come home and have this two-faced experience where folks will look at you like, oh, he thinks he is whatever. It's like, really, no, because when I'm there, like, I'm sure it's all love.
I'm just trying to rap, right? I'm just trying to rap, and you have something in your head that's telling you that I'm not there with you. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it created an interesting dynamic between, I guess, 15, because really once I hit 14, I was really touring over the world and other stuff and doing a lot of major stuff constantly. Like, it's like school, then rehearsals or performances weekends, or buses, everything. Yeah. Even during the week, like we had weeks where we have like 4 or 5 performances in a week. So especially when we was touring overseas and around the state. So it was just a lot. And so with the more and more I was away, the more and more that distance occurred, right? And came into the picture. And then the more and more people started to feel that resentment towards me, I suppose, even my like family and extended family. And so I had to get to a point where I'm like, okay, am I being dismissive? Am I acting in a, egotistical way or doing these other things? And I came to realize, like, I think it was my safety net and response to avoid him feeling small. Because it's like so much about Inglewood and what people perceive of it is small, insignificant, it's worthless, it's something to be forgotten, something to be disregarded, something to be diminished and demeaned. Whereas I see it as a space that's full of potential, full of hope, full of vision, full of ideas. I mean, I'm a product of Inglewood. So if I think all these things about myself, I believe that about my community too, at a scale, no matter what it looks like and how it seems. And so when I came to accept that and acknowledge that, it was so invigorating. It was so empowering. And I was able to appreciate that separation, because I think by having a separation, having that experience of feeling like an outlier, it helped me really solidify and firm up on who I am. I became way more aware of who I am, whose I am, who's my parents, what is my community like, where was I raised, what were my means, what was other means, what were the odds, what weren't the odds. And it helped me come to wear this armor that I wear now that's like, I don't per se feel invincible, but I do believe that I am so peculiar, so distinct, so
unique,
essential and unique to this life we're experiencing right now, that I'm just by taking steps, just by making calls, just by smiling, just by talking, just by creating and making a literal difference in the lives of folks that I've met, that I will meet, and that I eventually will come to connect with in the years to come.
For sure, man. I think that being able to fall back and find that the foundation that you've built for yourself, those morals, those ethics, those values that you kind of keep coming back to, that those remain the same, really helps to kind of stand up on those and be like, all right, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. I need to know that I have a greater purpose that I'm walking towards. So whatever gets said or done, I got to let it hit me and then just fall right off, because it's not that serious, right?
Absolutely.
It's greater for me to kind of get to, and I got to keep making those moves, taking those steps. Wonderful, man. All right. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, but kind of going just a little bit deeper, what comes to your mind when you hear the word purpose? I think we know the answer to this already based on what you've already said, but do you feel like you're living your life on purpose? How, and then why or why not?
Yes, I definitely feel like I'm living my life on purpose. And everybody I see nowadays, I try to share that as a seed of wisdom and something just to help share how I found a pathway to success and a pathway to being consistent and being able to maintain life in this journey we are pursuing, especially when you have visions and goals in the midst of a pandemic. It was so hard. Like I was revving up and I was feeling like, man, it's going great. Everything's getting better and bigger and better and bigger. And then you get to the pandemic and everything happens with the pandemic and it shuts stuff down in early 2020, right? Yeah, March 2020.
Coming out of grad school, the thought, I think, was that, all of us are going to be in Chicago. We can get a spot
absolutely
in Chicago. Like everything's going to kind of transform. And then on a dime almost, it felt like you were out here. Darvell came out here to shoot some videos with Jack, who was finishing up. It's someone else that we'll have on the podcast, another brother, friend of ours.
Yes, most definitely.
Was finishing up at USC Film School, which happens to be the best film school in the world.
Absolutely.
A lot of these like rankings. So one of Jack's final projects was wrapping a few music videos for Darvell. So we're shooting those videos, and then Val goes back to Chicago. Like before Jack even graduated, I think he got sent home, right? Because like the pandemic,
because it was like the peak.
It was literally like 2 weeks before like everything kind of got shut down, and that, I mean, our conversation shifted to just kind of, well, started out basically just being us on FaceTime every week, kind of trying to figure out what the next move is. But very different than what I think either of us had imagined in that apartment in Englehart.
Absolutely. And so, like you were saying, how do you, with stuff like that, the reality that everybody's living, how do you keep moving, how do you keep going? And it literally was like, for me and my faith and my belief in God, I had to get to a point where I realized, okay, maybe I was getting to a point where I was feeling like I really had control, absolute control. I think there's a control that we have where we have the capacity to make decisions. Like I could say, I can grab this burger or I could grab this salad. Yeah, I'm going to go with this because I have that free will, right? But there's this absolute control that would mean that I can control the airwaves. I can control the weather. I can control it. It's like, I don't have that control. I don't have absolute control. So when I came to understand that probably 2-3 months into the pandemic, I shifted from being like, woe is me, everything's ruined. Why am I believing in myself? Why am I pursuing stuff? Why am I trying to move forward? Because at this point, the odds are against me. And I started to sit down and look at my highlight reel. I said, okay, this happened and that happened. And this was something I believed. This is something that I had to go for. This is something I aspired towards. This is something that I was hoping for. This was something that I spoke. This is something that I manifested literally to a T. And it was happening faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, more frequent, that when that hit, it's like, this is no different. Guess what? The pandemic has been on 2 years, right? But I'm 27 now. Just celebrated my birthday today, 3 days ago. So it's like, I'm 27. Thanks, man. So I'm 27. So that means I've had 25 years of a highlight reel, 25 years of evidence that I'm on a trajectory to that which I'm believing God for, to that which I'm believing I have the potential to make it to bring to fruition. that seed, like I know I'm putting in a harvest. You know, trees last for a long time, but it takes a long time to build them and to grow them, you know. So exactly. So it's like 25 years means something. And so although this has happened now, I came back and said, wait, don't get confused by this. The pandemic didn't change your name. The pandemic didn't change your makeup. The pandemic didn't change your insights, your inspirations, your goals, your convictions, your thoughts, your endeavors. Your pandemic can't remove your degrees. The pandemic can't remove your education, your sacrifices, your resources, your family. Yeah, well, I guess I hate to say it like that, but you know what I'm saying? You get what I mean? Like on a different thing.
Like the energy's still there, yeah.
Right, but it's like you have this consistency that's in our journeys where it's like the pandemic is a blemish on the image. It's not the end all, the be all, or the thing that's going to eradicate the potential. I think that's given opportunity and space to yourself to find hope, to connect to hope. I think about like the Obamas when I use that term hope and stuff like that with the early message. But yeah, it's like you have this focus on like I could either accept demise and see it as like a fortune I have to bear, or I can hope with all might, with all power in myself and say, yo,
yes, we can.
I'm going to give energy to the chance that something can change.
Yeah.
There might just be a slight chance. The odds might be really slim, but I'd rather embrace that and think on that. That's going to give me a little bit more joy, a little bit more happiness, a little more peace than being here dooming and glooming.
And that's how the universe is listening to that, right? And it's going to attract that back to you. So beautiful, man. On purpose for your purpose. He's already said that before, but if you spend any time with Darvell, you'll hear him say that a lot.
Yeah, because I think it's like the song is saying right now, like, how you gonna win when you ain't right within? Like, it's the truth. It's like you gotta be able to be in a space and in a mindset where you're present. Like present brings presence.
Yeah.
You know, being present brings presence. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you being present, you find that there's all these gifts around you. There's all these gems. There's all these wonderful things that we oftentimes overlook or disregard because we're so on the move. And I know it's easy to be on the move because I'm on the move all the time too, but I got to a point where I'm like, I want to experience my life. I want to experience these moments. I want to cherish them. I want to feel like, I want to be able to like embrace it and say like, man, I can remember vividly what happened rather than like, it's kind of spotty. I just know I was busy. I don't want that to be my story. I want to actually be able to say, and I was able,
We're in a world right now. I mean, you hear me talk, I'll bring up capitalism real quick. But capitalism tells us that, right? The more productive that you are, the more busy that you are, the better that you're doing. However, I think that all keeps you from really being able to be completely grateful in the same way. I think that concept of being present allows you to see, like you're saying, all these blessings and presents that are around you. And then that begets more and more and more because you're starting to look for, okay, what are the ways that I can continue to climb upward? Or I can continue on this kind of like steady trajectory of growth that I'm putting together for myself. I also just wanted to run back really quick and highlight that idea of like a mindset of lack and like a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset and one of abundance. Like that growth mindset, the idea of like, I talk a lot about 10,000 hours with Darvell too. I know that within the book, the Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers.
Yeah, shout out to Malcolm Gladwell.
He's talking about how it takes 10,000 hours to become a master of something. My thing is, if you just got to work towards putting 10,000 hours in, because by the time you get to even 3, 4, 5,000 hours, you're going to be pretty good at what you're doing.
Absolutely.
You're only going to get better at that point. And so that idea of, again, intentional growth, just saying we just want a steady incline, right? Trying to be here for a long time and a good time.
Absolutely.
So
and just to piggyback off what you just said, like with that, I think it's like people want to see even mastery as this endpoint. Like you really never master anything. You just get to a point where you're very good, and it's as easy as breathing. It's like I just want to get to a point where it's as easy as me breathing when I'm in good health, when I'm feeling good, when I'm going through my day. Because it's many a times where I'm like, oh man, I probably breathe like 12,000 times and I ain't paid attention because I'm just in my flow. And I think when you're in your flow, it's like a river. The river is going to keep flowing. The river flows because that's what's intended to do. That's the purpose of it. It has to move. It moves with emotions. Might be some rocky grounds, might be some sand, might be whatever, but the water is still passing through.
Be like water.
Yeah, be like water. Just keep on moving.
Okay, talking through that, what sorts of seeds are you planting right now, and how do you plan on nurturing them? We know that like, life won't always be perfect.
Yeah.
But it can't have that purpose. So like, how is that intentional growth thought process? Kind of how has that changed the way that you move and grow and develop?
Absolutely. I think for me, right now, the seeds I'm planting are seeds that I want to produce after their own kind. So it's like I want to take Levraddigans Studios, this brand, this vision, this entity and space,
physical location that you build.
Physical and just like the concept in itself, and maximize this moment. I want to take it to a place where I'm able to employ my friends, employ my family, get all of us getting the wins, and move this in a direction where we're literally pioneering a new approach to multimedia, to this experience of the hybrid world, to this experience of multifaceted creativity, because I think people are still siloed and skewed on their legs. Like, you're the radio, you're the podcast, whereas there's room for everybody, and there's room and opportunity for people to be multidimensional. I don't have to just call myself a singer, a songwriter, a producer. Like, I can be all these things, and the people that I think leave lasting impressions have embraced that and have created lives that represent that. And so in myself, I want this to be a breeding ground for that. I want it to be a thing where people black and brown, people that come from a lot, come from a little, people that come from the best and come from the worst can find kindred, synergistic, and mutually beneficial support by having a space where it's like, yo, I'm not focused on the exterior. I'm looking at the interior. What are you bringing to the table? What's inside of you? How do I help nurture what's inside of you? How do I help birth and build what's inside of you? That's the seed I want to plant. I know and I intend for wealth and resources to find its way to me too, of course, but I want it to be utilized to make a difference in the world. If I can know that anything I'm creating, anything that I'm doing, anything I'm pursuing is literally changing somebody else's life, giving hope to someone who's hopeless, giving love to someone who feels like they are all on their own and don't have anybody to love them, giving sincere support to somebody who really just needs a helping hand, all these things. I just want to be that type of person. I want to be in a position where I don't fall in lack because I'm giving of myself to others in different ways. That's what the seeds that I'm planting right now, and I'm doing all I can do, putting out the rollouts, new marketing strategies, everything, because it's like, yo, I'm about it. I believe what I'm saying. I'm passionate, and I just want to see this transition happen in our black and brown communities, where it's no longer this adversarial approach where everything is about, gotta get up before he do, gotta do this for that. It's
if I get this, you can't get this.
Right. It's like, I know who I am. So indifferent of who you are and who I am, I believe that I can only do what I'm doing. It's my assignment. So because it's my assignment, the teacher assigned it to me, the teacher, no pun intended, you know what I'm saying, assigned it to me, it can't be taken by nobody else. Nobody else can assume it. Nobody else can complete it.
It's for you.
Plagiarism isn't the thing, right? We all know from school, you get an automatic F. So in order for me to get the L's and to get an L, I get the F and I'll plagiarize and say, I'm borrowing that, or I got to do this. No, your plane is your plane. Your plateau is your plateau. Your platform is your platform. I got mine. I got my assignments. And as long as I meet these, I'm going to have straight A's.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off that a little bit, there's so many different things I want to say right now. On one side, I think one of the things I've really admired is that I got caught up in my own life, and I'm not gonna step on too many toes of whatever we do by episode. But I got caught up on a lot of like, oh well, this is what I was told I wasn't capable of doing, or wasn't able to do. I had somebody tell me one day, they was like, well, just show them. You don't need to tell them about it, just show them. And I think that even upon meeting you the first time, it was just like, oh, he's just been showing people this is what he's going to do. And I think that the momentum that's been built since then, like us meeting in 2018, the snowball's just gotten bigger and bigger, right? There's just
absolutely
more like force behind it now, and inertia behind it now. So I also want to highlight another one of those connection points. I think for us has been like that. Even that first meeting, it was like, I want to be able to do this so that I can give back to my community. I want to be able to support my community and help people like ascend and get lifted out of like poverty and those kinds of situations, so that they see that there's other alternatives and options, and then they're able to provide for their families, and then in turn that kind of continues to roll down to more like rising tide lifts all boats. So continuing to lead by your example, man, it's been a beautiful thing to watch and to be a part of.
Thanks, dude. Thank you. I'm humbled by that.
All right, we're gonna drop it into a quick like rapid fire round. You ready?
Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Okay. How do you check your fruit when you're in a grocery store?
I'm honestly horrible because my mom done told me millions of times what to do and what to look for. I guess I just make sure it ain't molded or something. Or if it ain't too soft, like, because the only fruit I get is like apples, grapes, oranges. Yeah, that's pretty much the three you'll find. Maybe I get sliced pineapples because I'm not finna cut a pineapple. And then I get some bananas. So most times I just look at it does it look ready?
Is it right? And do I need to wait a week as I'm eating these? What's gonna happen? Okay.
Right. Yeah, I tend to not want something that's like not fully right. I want it to look ready. Like if I'm going to get some fruit, I'm like, okay, I need to consume this relatively soon. So I'm not trying to have something that's like bananas that's green. I need it to be like, this is ready to go to where if I wanted the banana later today, I could do it. If not, definitely about a mile, I'll be good. Yeah.
Okay. How do you check your fruit in your life?
I think when it comes to my life and my faith, we have a thing called the fruits of the spirit. And so that's love, that's peace, that's joy, that's all these different wonderful things that most people apply to as good virtues. And so for me, that's what I track. Like I'm not tracking how much money you make today, how much money didn't you make today? Where are you sitting with this circumstance and that circumstance? Are you winning here? Are you losing there? It's like, how do you feel? Like what am I emoting right now? And so my fruit check is like, am I bitter today? Am I feeling a little depressed? Am I feeling a little insignificant and worried and anxious and all these other things? And if I notice that, that's my fruit check. It's like, how do I literally feel? And a lot of times,
the thread to the why.
Right. It's like, that's my pinpoint. That's my diagnosis. So it's like, okay, I'm doing a self check, like cars. You plug in a card thing up there to do a read and a diagnostics test to see what's going on. Like I'm doing a daily diagnostics test with myself and saying like, how do you feel today? What's going on? Because I think it's so easy to bear burdens and to bear the weight. It's like the orange, you could eat the orange peel, yes, but the orange has to be peeled. There's a full nutrition and the full sweetness and the full savor, what it is under the peel. And sometimes people are walking around with peels hanging off of them because they just sitting there like, I dug into it. I reviewed it a little bit. I thought about it, but I'm just going to disregard it and let that be rectifying or, resolving whatever this might be, or getting into a place of improvement. Whereas I think you have to hit it head on. You have to be able to have the diagnosis test of your own and say, okay, I felt like a lemon today. I peeled the lemon and I'm still fake blue and feeling salty. So I'm kind of like wearing that all day. And so now I'm going to these other rooms with other people and people looking at me and saying, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay. Why are you asking that? And it's like, they're asking for a reason because you're probably showing that residue.
Exactly, right? People could tell.
Yeah, you're showing that residue. So,
okay.
That's what I do. It's like a daily diagnosis test. And
do you feel?
It's not easy to do because it takes you being hyper aware. It's like you have to be able to focus in and notice when it's slightly off.
You gotta be present, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be present with yourself.
Exactly.
What does it look like for you to have your harvest come in? And then when have you maybe tried to harvest too early? How have you found the right times, places, moments for like that harvest to kind of come in?
Right.
Like bring that in. Is there always a right time?
Okay.
Moment?
Okay. I think that's the blessing and the curse, if I can say it like that, of being diligent and being somebody who's relentless, is that you're always moving, you're always making strides, you're always keep your eyes and ears open because you're like, this could be it, this could be it, that could be it, that could be it. And so I had many days where I went to groups and bands and other things and opportunities, had people hitting me up, had other people call me, all these counterfeits. I can't stand counterfeits, but they are part of the journey, right? They teach you lessons, you gain wisdom from that. And so for me, I was like, okay, I'm thinking about this and I really want to get plugged with a touring group or something, because I done toured all over the world. I could get with somebody background singing, then you're trying to connect with this person, and you find all these people that's shiesty, that's saying, oh, if you pay me this, I'll give you that and other stuff. And so I came to find that, like, if I have a harvest, like, I don't have to sit here and shimmy the door, break it, kick it down, do all this other stuff to get to it. Like, it's not that serious. It's going to wear me out and weigh me down before I can even get to a place of enjoying it. And so harvest time is when I'm in the right place, right time, and it welcomes me. I want an open arm, open hand, something to feel like, not that it's reaching towards me and picking me up, but that it's acknowledging me. I'm never going to go someplace where I'm not. Like I say, I always make sure now my goal is, am I getting celebrated? I'm not being tolerated, because I've got too much to offer and too much to bring to the table to where I don't have to sit here and just feel like you're tolerating me. Because I am so valuable, and I'm so aware of how important and essential my existence is, that I will never allow anyone to diminish my light again. And so you're doing that and diminishing, you could diminish all day, every day, but guess what? That's for you, that's on you, and I'm not meant to be here. Because a harvest place is plenty, it's full of vibrancy. Most times if it's harvest season, it's sunny, it's bright, it's so much activity and so much around, it just feels complete, you know what I'm saying? And so that's how I acknowledge a harvest time. It's like this studio, when I got here, I felt something in me saying, okay, something's about to happen, it's time to make a move, it's time to make some shifts and changes. But it wasn't until I stepped to the front of the door that I looked at it and I saw under what the naked eye could see, and I saw my vision, I saw my dream. I saw myself 5, 6, 7 years ago sitting down imagining something like this,
stuff that you have now,
and it's before me. And so it's like, I'm looking at it and doing it. It's like, that's harvest. Harvest is being able to say, like, that was the seed. That's what a harvest is to me. It's like,
kept doing,
was that the, yes,
I kept working.
Yes, it was like, was there a seed? Is this linked to that seed? If it doesn't link to the seed, this is not what it's supposed to be. And that's what's been keeping me every time somebody hit me up, every time somebody's doing something in the past recent years, I'm always just sitting there, and subconsciously, without them even knowing, we having a whole conversation, I'm giggling, laughing, yeah, what up, the whole time I'm in my head like, what are you? Who are you? Yeah. What is this? Because I can't afford. It's like, once you get to a point where you experience a gap, I wouldn't even say lack, you experience that gap experience that everybody need, because I think gaps are important to building you up better, and it gives you some space to kind of get back revved up before you launch again. So it's like that gap period and that pullback, the catapult is just pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. That gap is getting bigger and bigger because you got to launch deeper and further, right? So I'm doing the gap and I'm like, okay, is this one it? Is that one it? And I had to get to the point where I realized you can't push more than you meant to be pushed. The pull is what you can deal with. Like, you know, okay, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. It's not. So that's like you pulling back your resistance. You're holding back and saying, okay, not yet. Maybe not. No. Are you supposed to go to grad school? Maybe. Can I get into the school? All these other thoughts. But it's like, no, just pull back. Just make the move. If it's meant for you,
right? Take the shot, and if it goes in, it goes in. If it doesn't,
absolutely,
it doesn't. What's meant for you is not going to pass you.
Absolutely. And so at the point where that'll happen, the catapult transpires, and it's like, I wasn't even expecting this. And that's when you know it's harvest. Yeah. That's when you know it's time. And I think the example of being out of harvest time is when you having to do the heavy lifting. That pullback is the hardest part. And the greatest thing about when harvest time comes is that pull happens with or without you. So it's able to just pull you and pull you. It's
happening unconsciously, right? As long as the seeds are moving to it.
Yeah. And you're able to get it and gain how you're supposed to gain. So
totally. We got some more fruit things here, but I guess we've talked about this a little bit. When do you know it's your season, or when do you know that the fruit that you're like working to grow is kind of in season? We talked a little bit about like how like strawberries aren't in season all the time, but you can get them all the time now. Like, what does that kind of mean to you?
Right, because people know how to modify things. People can give you a microwave version of something. I don't want the microwave version of anything anymore. Like, I literally want, right, I don't want something that's engineered. I don't want something that's manufactured. I don't want something that's tainted with somebody else's ideal approach, ideal makeup, ideal persona, ideal flow, like with the, infused or whatever strawberries on this other thing. Like, yeah, it makes it more plenteous. It helps to stretch more and expand. But there's something that's lost in that manufacturing process when it's mass manufactured. I don't think that, just as much as I believe that I'm peculiar and distinct, I believe that I'm not able to be mass manufactured. I think what I can create can be mass manufactured per se, but I think that me as the creator, the creative, I'm not meant to be mass manufactured. I'm meant to be whole, present.
I'm 1 of 1. Yeah,
like, I'm one out of one, literally. Like the song that's gonna be coming soon. Y'all be on the lookout. Don't forget it when y'all hear it on the radio. But no, like seriously, you know, like we are meant to be complete. We're meant to be in a state of a fullness. Like harvest is fullness. Harvest is like the seed was there and it grew and it grew and it sprouted and it grew. And then this branch led to that branch. Then that branch expanded to another branch. Then that vine expanded to another vine. And it's supposed to be this extensive experience. It's always stretching further and deeper than you. And what you don't realize is, and when I'm saying you, I'm talking about just people in general. We don't realize that maybe your seed has to start with you, and then it becomes you and 100 other people because you started the vine.
Build a community for people.
Yes,
it's like a product for people to actually like coalesce around. Yeah,
and by having it like that, because they say sometimes like when weeds hit vines, right, when stuff is growing, it can kill it. So if you connect to the wrong thing, it's gonna kill what you're trying to build.
Yeah,
literally. So it's like I don't want no weeds getting wrapped up with me. And I had many times where weeds got wrapped up with me when I swear my momentum stopped. It just like ended. And I was always like, what happened? What went wrong? Was it me? Was it that? And it was that. No, dude, you trying to grow in the wrong direction. Like you got to grow with that which is going to complement what you're building, not something that's going to be opposition, not something that's going to tell you what kind of stage name is that? What does that even mean? What is it? You know, not somebody's going to steal your music, like all these things.
I think part of one of the things that our relationship has taught me and that I've just kind of looked around and seen more of is like looking for folks who are going to say, no, you can't do that, but rather like, okay, how can we do that? What do we need to do?
Absolutely.
What's the most feasible way for us to get this up off the ground, given what we have like to kind of work with? And those are very, very, very different mindsets and very different like energies to kind of be approaching anything with. The question then becomes like, am I tending to my seeds the right way so that this harvest can be abundant? Am I bringing in the right people to work on this, like whatever we're planting, so that it grow really kind of unencumbered, right? If there are weeds, we're able to knock those out immediately and kind of like make sure that everything is cool. But I want to ask one or two more questions here about the seed pieces. I don't know how we're doing on time.
Yeah, the music has cut off now, but it's fine. It's a nice open space. Last thing I heard was Left My Text on Red again.
Okay, great.
Which is one of my singles. Check it out if you haven't heard it. Check it out.
I'll close with this as well, but I know that by the time y'all get this, there should be a new project that's either out or it's about to be out. So shout out to that.
Shout out to dudes.
Sain Levrad coming soon.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I talk to folks about a lot is that idea of like, well, what's the right time or the right way for me to do this? Should I just be like trying to get something together and putting it out? Should I be like really, really, really scrutinizing and ensuring that like it's as perfect as it can be? How do you balance those kinds of pieces to figure out when it feels right and ripe and like ready to release whatever it is that you're working on?
Right. I'm learning this even more too with just marketing things and branding materials and just any kind of operation or act that requires a lot of forethought. Like for me, it no longer matters how fast I get it out. I have to be able to get it to the best potential as it can be, because now everything is a reflection of what I did last. And if I'm trying to have a standard of excellence is the only option. I don't give myself any other wiggle room. And so with everything that I'm doing, with everything that I'm saying, with how I approach people, with what I'm offering the world in all these different spaces, it has to be excellent. It has to be something where I can literally smile when I see it. If I can't smile when I see it, it's not excellent, because I know for me, that's my reaction when something is excellent. When I see something excellent, experience something excellent, I smile. Know what your indicator is. for that kind of thing, and that will help you give you a cue and let you know if you can't smile, it ain't ready for me. You know what I'm saying? If you can't indicate it in the way that you naturally emote or showcase when you feeling excited, because I think excitement is the same thing as readiness. Like, I'm ready to run this race when I feel like, man, I'm roamed up. You see a track runner, they at the gate, they jumping side to side, a boxer, right? It's that anticipation. It's an excited energy that's there. And so if I know that something is at its best and ready for the fight, if I'm using the boxing analogy, if it's ready for the fight, if it's ready for the ring, if it's ready for what's coming at me, then I'm able to do it with full confidence. If I feel like it ain't ready, and I've had many days over the years and stuff y'all never see that ain't nowhere online no more, anything else, where it was just not. It was just like forward. It was so rushed because I was just thinking, man, I want it to happen now. I want it to be this. I did it. Yeah, it's like I kept once again taking it out of control and absolute control. I want the absolute control. I want to say I want this to happen next week because I'm tired of sitting here working and I'm tired of putting forth this effort. I'm tired of posting these videos. I'm tired of talking to these people. I'm tired of doing this, doing that. And I came to the point where I'm like, life is not the journey's end and destination. It's in the journey itself. And so it's like, I need to be able to feel like, man, I'm falling in love with the journey. Like, I can go through it and have 3 months working on a song that I thought I was going to drop in the first month if it went from being just okay to excellent. You know what I'm saying? If I went from just being inspired to like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm a whole ball of creativity. I'm bleeding creativity. You know what I'm saying? Like to that extent, like it's just oozing out of me. I'm just in this place where it's like everything about it is just prolific and amazing. And that's what I think. If that answers your question.
I think it does, man.
Okay.
I think we're good. All right. I'll talk a little bit more about this on my episode too, but I think that concept of control and what we do as humans have control over and what we don't, there's far more that we don't have control over in this life.
Absolutely.
So being able to sit down and sit with yourself and say, okay, I can control what I do with my time, recognizing that time is that like the most valuable currency that you really have.
Absolutely.
And being able to say, how do I put that intentionally towards the thing that's going to help me grow into who and what I want to be, so I can help my people. I can do whatever it is that you kind of feel like you want to do. But all right, to wrap up real quick, the greatest human act we feel is to inspire. We're going to do that kind of as best as we can. So our goal is to bring love and light into the world with all that we do. And we hope that any of y'all listening to these conversations are able to find the little gems that are being dropped, and that you can take them on your journeys and let them kind of grow and manifest into whatever they are. Just to know that if you're coming back to your craft, to your vision, to your purpose every day, you're going to get to your goal when all is said and done.
Yes.
Spider-Man is Peter Parker, right? He was just Peter Parker one day. Batman at one point was just Bruce Wayne. They were able to evolve into these different superheroic figures with time, thought, and intention. And there's trauma in there, but we're not going to get into that right now.
Right. Yes.
But we know that you can do that too. So we just want to leave you with that. Darvell, is there anything else you want to say before we pop off?
I just want to say again, thank y'all for tuning into the first episode of Fruit Check Conversations on Purpose. It's your boy Sain Levrad and the homie V2, Vishnu, Vanagopal. I'm super pumped and excited for the show. This show should be your accountability partner. That's our goal. We want to just be accountability partners to help you remain accountable to your vision, to your goal, to your dreams. Because if you don't pursue it, it shall not be accomplished. It can't. It's your assignment. You know? Like I said, we ain't the teachers per se. We're just sharing our wisdom nuggets that we've gained on our journeys as students of life. But you know what I'm saying? We are helping and we're hoping to be accountability partners near and far. Our friends, our family, our loved ones, people that we don't even know. We want to help you remain accountable and remain in a state of sustainable motion and a sustainable movement. Another thing I was going to say was, this is a exercise of gardening in the mind. Fruit check, conversation of purpose. We're gardening the mind. We're gardening ourselves and saying, okay, what does a good gardener do? It makes sure that the seed, he or she or they or them, whatever your pronouns are, make sure that you are taking such good care of that which you're planting, because you want it to produce what it's intended to produce. You don't put a tomato in the same conditions you put an apple. You have to put your seeds and what you're trying to produce in the right conditions, in the right spaces to germinate and to become all it's supposed to be.
That
And so
environment
this
means
is
everything. Right?
absolutely environment means everything. And so this is an exercise of gardening the mind. Every week we're going to be coming here gardening the mind. And even as we talk amongst ourselves, we talked about me today, and we're going to learn more about Vishnu next week. But as we talk about all these things, the goal is that we're going to get to a point where we all learn how one could approach gardening the mind.
Everyone's a teacher, right? Everyone could be a teacher. Everyone could be a
absolutely.
guide. That's about
and
it.
So I'm excited to hear from other friends, even what they think and what their response to some of these questions are. So once again, this is Fruit Check, Conversations on Purpose. And we are so grateful to have you as our accountability partners. Sending all the love. Be safe.